Come, let us explore the real reason contemplation could fail you. What happens is that humans, for some odd reason, refrain from communicating literally. We are wired to think symbolically. How did that happen? Well, way back in the Precambrian Sea, the animals perceived, and then over time they began to recall past perceptions and anticipate future perceptions. And that became the armature upon which the sculpture of mind evolved, oddly enough. So in every culture there is figurative language. There are literal statements, there are similes, there are metaphors, there are hyperbole, or hyperboles. I have difficulty pronouncing that word, but you get the idea. Now, Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, and what that looks like is 90% of people, including meditation teachers, think being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel is brilliant. But the more rigid we are, the less able we are to perceive a metaphor, and the more apt we are to take it literally, which can really fuel some flights of fancy. Fortunately, there's always a minority who are flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Flexibility is the key, and rationality are the key to really understanding what's going on with the contemplations in Buddhism, the deeply metaphoric contemplations. It is into similes. They make much more sense that way. And so for instance, there's so much confusion in Mahayana Buddhism. Well, there's so much confusion in Theravadan Buddhism about the idea of no self, because they take it literally. There's so much confusion in Mahayana Buddhism about emptiness because, it's taken literally. And there's so much confusion in Tantric Buddhism about their contemplations because, you guessed it, they take it literally. So I'd like to turn to this evening's practice text and dive right into the recitation of contemplation's caveat, and then actually dig into the contemplations. And we can do that after approximately, got to push the right button here. After approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you will not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. And now, without further ado, off to tonight's latest iteration of all good ones, easy meditation. Look at that. So we're going to start with Mahayoga's loving second fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path that leaps over competitive jealousy. And this is the caveat I was telling you about. It's only 4 stanzas long. Let's chant. Rather than indulge or controlling tendencies with all follies of active visualization, emotion, magic, and belief, we could just recite these kind words in harmony with all breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors for statements literal. and relax into the flexibility that savors the chance explaining metaphors as similes. Fabulous. Now let's get right to it. We're going to play with a set, with 4 sets of contemplations. Each are loving wishes for others' well-being. And by others, I mean all beings everywhere, real or imagined. So we're going to start off with an elaborate explanation and then a very concise practice. Please chant with me. May all minds of all beings now be as peacefully enlightened as the mind of a real or imagined Buddha symbolized by... Oopsie, I can do that again. May all minds of all beings now be as peacefully enlightened as the mind of a real or imagined Buddha symbolized by a tikle, one suitable seed or bija mantra. So we're wishing people to be peacefully enlightened, and then we compare that enlightenment to something, to 2 things, to a Buddha, and to the symbol of an enlightened mind, which is a tikle, or a 1-syllable, or a seed mantra. Seed mantra, or seed, is translated from the Sanskrit word bija. And this is one of many Tibetan bijas. I think it's kind of pretty, but with the rainbow and all. So one fun thing to bear in mind is that the mental morality of kind intention is the 2nd fold of the Buddha's 8-fold path. The late Karma Chakme Rinpoche insisted that the essence of all Buddhist morality all distills down to one point: nonviolence. The Buddha's first Lam Rim, the Buddha's gradual path to enlightenment, was only 8 steps long. It's called the 8-fold path, and 50% of it pertains to loving kindness. So we don't need 1,000 rules. All we need to do is contemplate and meditate in a way that helps our love to be spontaneous and uncontrived. So what we're going to do is take all these words and squish them down to 6 syllables that we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. So it's not our job to visualize all minds of all beings as looking like a syllable. It's not our job to visualize all beings being Buddhas. We don't have to believe, we don't have to emote. If we simply play with these words in harmony with our breathing, that is going to strengthen the neural pathways responsible for empathy. And I just want to make sure that this is the soundtrack is recording properly, because sometimes it doesn't, and it's quite nightmarish. May all relationships or speech of all beings now be as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddha speech symbolized by mantra. Allow me to remind you that the interpersonal morality of kind communication is the 3rd fold of the Buddha's 8-fold path. May all bodies or forms of all beings know and show the beautiful health seen in Buddhist statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Yedom archetype of enlightenment such as Kuntu Zangpo. Allow me to remind you that the physical morality of kind conduct is the fourth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. May all circumstances or lots of all beings now have their safe fortune open. As a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, land or Vati. The circumstantial morality of kind commerce is the fifth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Good evening and welcome to this evening's guided meditation. We now turn to Mahayoga's wise first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path that leaps over clinging pride. So we're going to briefly chant a disclaimer so we won't make any common mistakes. Together. Rather than indulge or controlling tendencies with our bodies of active visualization, emotion, magic, and belief, we could just recite these wise words in harmony with our breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors with statements literal, and relax into the flexibility that savors the chance explaining metaphors as similes. Aha, okay. So we're going to play with 4 exercises, and the first half of each exercise is an extensive explanation, and the second half of each exercise is a rather concise exercise. Together. Watching how all circumstances or lots could be as impermanent and interdependent. Oops, look at this. Okay, that's better. Watching how all circumstances or lots could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form. So notice that with the verb melt is a metaphor of impermanence. The verb absorb functions as a metaphor of interdependence. And what we're doing is, just like one might fight fire with fire, we're going to fight self-centeredness with self-centeredness, which is just amusing. So now we're going to practice the really concise version. We're going to take, all these words and squish them down into just 6 syllables, which we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. Now, it's not our job to actively visualize. Remember that. If all we do is silently, mentally, and passively recite these words in harmony with our breathing, that's enough. Feeling how all bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this communication or speech. Hearing how all interpersonal speech could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this mind. Feeling how all perceiving, emoting, intending, thinking, recalling, and imagining minds could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into a vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although tantalizing to the eye, could be not graspable to the hand. We turn now to Anu Yoga's Channels, Winds, and Drops subtle energy work that supports the body and mind in their efforts to sit and meditate. We're going to begin with lower abdomen bliss and release right here. Alma goes a D karma moon that is wind element. Oopsie, gotta make sure that everything's all coordinated. Alma goes a D karma moon that is wind element, and our sacred wheel seat is accessed by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger gently upon the tip of our left. Return now to Hatha Yoga's mindfulness and meditation, the seventh and eighth folds of the Buddha's eightfold path that slice through the duality of dread and desire. Allow me to remind you that the most efficient way to practice mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the verb perceiving during our inhalation. Doing so will induce our cerebral cortex to cooperate with the sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to help us perceive in a very special way, to help us perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. But perceive what? perceive sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, such as emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. I'm going to take a moment to edit. Please bear with me. So what happens if I increase this to 36? Okay, how about 28, 24? One more time, just because I'm funny that way. And let's see. Excellent. I'll just do this. Allow me to continue with the explanation. The most efficient way to practice meditation is to silently and mentally recite the verb releasing during our exhalation. Doing so induces our cerebral cortex to cooperate with the parasympathetic nervous system ensconced within both the lower third as well as the upper third of that same spinal cord. Our parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. So let's practice for 12 sets of 12 repetitions. During each inhalation, when we're silently and mentally reciting the verb perceiving, we can advance the tip of our right thumb, beginning with our right little finger, thusly. We've now counted one set of 12 repetitions. But how do we count 12 sets? We do that on our left hand, advancing the tip of our left thumb, but beginning this time with our left index finger and working our way to our little finger. This takes approximately 10 to 12 minutes. Well, 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how fast you breathe. I breathe kind of fast, probably because of my ADHD. And because I'm talking so much. We return to Mahayoga's loving second fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path that leaps over competitive jealousy. And then we come to these Mahayoga's wise first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path that leaps over clinging pride. We return to Honor Yoga's channels, ones, and drops. This time working with Crown Bliss. But, oopsie, gotta make sure everything's all coordinated. Vata Jana Karma Mundara Space Elemented Crown Will See Dawn is accessed by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger up gently upon the tip of our left. And now we return to Ati Yoga's mindfulness and meditation. we return to here we go. We return to the Mahayoga's loving second fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path that leaps over competitive jealousy. And now for a bit of the old Mahayoga's wise first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path that leaps over clinging pride. That's much better. Okay. Now it's time for our Anu Yogas, Channels, Winds, and Drops. Now we're going to focus on the navel bliss. Let's see. Rana Sambhava Karma Mudras Earth Elemented or Navel with Sindram is accessed by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger gently upon the tip of our left. We return to Mahayoga's loving second fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path that leaps over competitive jealousies, obstructions to omniscience. Now it's time for Mahayoga's wise first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path that leaps over clinging pride's obstruction to omniscience. Now it's time for Anuyoga's subtle energy work. This one is going to focus upon heartless. First the chant, then the demonstration. Akshobhya karma mundaras water element that our heart will see, whom is accessed by resting the great knuckle and the base of our right middle finger gently upon the tip of our left. Let us seal this evening's practice by bringing the 4 bases of mindfulness into Mahayoga's love and release. May all lots of all beings appearing and changing now be as safely fortunate as a pure land of lore depicted in Buddhist paintings. May all minds of all beings lucid yet changing now be as peacefully enlightened as a Buddha's mind symbolized by a unsurable bija. May all speech of all beings resounding yet changing now be as joyfully laughing as a Buddha's speech symbolized by a multisyllabic mantra. May all forms of all beings sensual yet changing now be as beautifully healthy as a yidam octave depicted in Buddhist statuary. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 and 2/3 hours, or 3/4 hours, I would very much like to return to tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.